On this episode of LARP Chats, I'll be interviewing Kulos Rubus. At the time of this recording, they played out of the Hollow, an Amtgard group in Everett, Washington. In this episode, we'll be talking about the Amtgard Community. You'll find out how he first came to join the community and how it helped him become more assertive and social. We'll also talk about how he affected the community through helping run his park. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and please subscribe to the channel for more LARP content. You can also consider supporting me on Patreon, link in the description below. And now on to the episode. Hello, Bjorn here for LARP Chats. We have Kulos Rubus. Kulos Rubus, my bad. Yep. I knew I was going to mess that up. He's been playing for 2.5 years, and you're playing Amtgard. We're talking about Amtgard for this interview. And he's been playing out of the Hollow. What city is that?
That's in Everett, so just north of Seattle.
All right, so we'll just get right into it. How would you describe the community to someone who has no idea what Amtgard is?
What I really like about Amtgard is that you can just show up to a park, not know anyone, and we have this common thing that we all know, this common game that we all play, this language that we all talk in, and you can just slide into a group of people and usually know what's going on. There might be talks about companies and stuff you don't know about, but we're all playing the same game across the country, and I'm not a social person. I need something to talk about, and I will talk and talk and talk about the things that I like. And having Amtgard be this thing that we all already are interested in, I know that I can talk about Amtgard, and I'm not going to scare people away with just my hyper focus.
Oh yeah, it's really nice to have a community of people that all play the same thing. When you were first introduced to the community, how were you welcomed into Amtgard?
Well, I first learned about Amtgard when I was curious about what LARP rules would look like, because I was into Dungeons and Dragons. I'd heard about LARPing. I was like, how would LARP combat work? Do they, take dice out with the field with them? It's like, what? You can't roll dice on a grass field. How does this work? And so I started looking up, what are some LARP rule books? And Amtgard is the first one that I'm able to get my hands on. And I read through it, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. So I started looking up, and I'm like, local park, we got Inland Ocean, we got the Hollow. I lived in Seattle, closer to Inland Ocean at the time, so I started going to their fighting practice because I was busy for a couple weekends in a row. And I met up with Killian, and I met up with Ro. I had already read the entire rule book, and I'm like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to play some battle games. I'm going to be a spellcaster. I'd already memorized heal at that point.
Wow!
I am ready to play this game. And they're like, oh no, we're just here for fighting. We're just going to fight each other. We don't do battle. It's middle of October. It's starting to get dark earlier. Yeah. I was just so enthusiastic to play the game. I had seen Ro with her dagger that covers her entire hand. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. I've seen guides online. It's I've been playing for a couple of weeks, and I've seen guides online about how to make regular swords and stuff. Do you have anything for, do you have anything about making a dagger like that? Then she was like, oh, I'll just bring the materials next fighting practice. And she sat down, and I made my first weapon with her. I still use that dagger now. And I still get people telling me, oh, that's a cool dagger. They were so welcoming, and they were so helpful in teaching me how to fight. Been going to fighting practice kind of on and off at Inland Ocean for 2.5 years now, and I've learned so much from Killian. I just have a good time. I don't think I'm a great fighter, but just showing up, being able to fight with people, just kind of take a break from fighting for a couple minutes, talk for a little bit about oh yeah, these are things that are coming up. Oh, there's something that happened. Get back into fighting. It was very fun, and then I started going to park days. Once I was available on the weekends, I went to Inland Ocean. I went to the Hollow. I drove down to Greenwood Keep. And then I learned about the Corn Maze event. 3 weeks after I first went to a park day, I was like, well, that sounds like fun. And so I'm driving up and down the kingdom. I had just started the game, and I'm meeting all these different people. And it was so cool to see so many different people all interested in the same thing. And it seems everyone knows each other. It's I can mention someone's name all the way down in Olympia and from that lives up in Everett, and it's like, oh yeah, they know each other. I'm not a very social person. Like, outside of Amtgard, I don't really talk to people very much. So
I can relate.
Yeah. People are just so welcoming. There were things that I knew because I had read the rule book, and there were assumptions that I made, and people would correct me about things and teach me new things, teach me how to fight, teach me about how spells work and things like that, and it was very welcoming.
Well, I'm glad that you had such a great experience. I'm still impressed that you actually read the rule book before you came out and actually memorized Guild. That took me so long to memorize.
Yeah. No, I memorized it, and I would practice saying it to try and get it faster. It's like, I'm going to be the best healer there is. Played healer for like 3 months, and I'm like, I don't like playing spellcasters. I don't like making spell lists and having to remember, oh, this time I have these spells, and that time I have those spells.
Oh, yeah.
I just want the set list, set abilities. I like having fun toys and stuff. So.
Can you share a story that encapsulates the community to you? You kind of already touched on some of those, but there's one in particular that you think really highlights the community.
About over the past year, from March 23 to last week, was the Monarch of the Hollow. And I had never really done anything like that at the time. And at the time that I first stepped up, it was kind of because there weren't really very many people coming to the Hollow. I was coming basically every week, and it was like, well, the options are me, Hated, who's currently Kingdom Champion, he can't do it, and a couple other people that would be coming every week, but there was really only like 5 to 8 of us that were super consistent, and so I was like, I could be the Monarch, and so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be the sheriff of this shire here. That doesn't sound like too much work. I like running battle games, and so I do that, and I start making myself a schedule. I'm like, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And over this year, the park grew from having about 10 people per week at most to just last week we had 52 people at the park.
Oh, wow.
And the only special event we had was Coronation, and I think most people didn't even know that was happening. So it's like we've grown so much over the past year. I don't want to take full credit for that. Like, there's been a lot of fortunate circumstances of certain people coming back to the game, and people happening to pass by the park. The park has grown so much. We've had so many things. And last NLCC, September 2023, I had been sheriff for 6 months. I jokingly said to a couple of people at the parks, like, oh, if they don't give me a Lord title, then we're going to riot during court. And they took it completely seriously. They went,
oh, wow.
and they were like, all right, we're going to get everyone that's here from the Hollow. Because the park had grown so much over those 6 months. I think we had like 25 people from the Hollow just at NLCC. Everyone's like has all their weapons and stuff. Everyone had like enchanted ahead of time, being like, oh, we're going to be prepared for this. We have a plan. We got 2 people who are going to stand up, and both of them are going to dispel the queen in case she has a sleight of mind, and blah, blah, blah. We're going to do all these things. But I already knew that the Lord title was coming.
No.
So I already knew it. The guards already knew it. Pretty much everyone already knew it. It was like, let's just have some fun. It would be fun to kind of do some role playing here. We have some interactions between some of our members and the guards, and we all already know, but we're just here to have a good time. They all felt strongly enough to support me to do all of this, and it felt incredibly special. I wasn't super serious about like, oh, I need to be recognized. But it felt really nice to look at myself 3 years ago and like, I don't really have any friends. I have like maybe one person that I hang out with pretty often, and now I have like 20 people that are going through all this effort and basically willing to die for me. It felt really special, and it's like a huge moment.
So, going to change it a little bit, we're still talking about the community, but how does the community in Amtgard handle conflicts or disagreements?
I'm of the opinion that you should defer to whoever's in charge. If you're in a battle game and you have a disagreement, you defer to a reef. If you're not in a battle game and you have a disagreement, go get someone who has some actual authority if you really can't work it out between yourselves. I like deferring to whoever's in charge, and and now that I'm out of office, I can say that's not because I'm the one in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Of the things I had to deal with as sheriff and then as duke, seems like to me old players that don't even play the game anymore feeling ownership over things that are happening now and making comments about things, be like, this is how things should be, this is how things used to be. It's hard for me to give you any ownership over this if you're not even bothering to show up. If you were showing up, I would be a little more understanding of you having these opinions that go against, everyone else, but it just was making my job hard. And I'm like, I don't know, I like running battle games. That's what I like to do. I think I'm good at it. Mediating conflict, I'm not great at it, but I kind of, sit back for a minute, try to understand what's going on. How do I ensure that we can keep running battle games, that people aren't going to stop coming to the park because of things like this? Ultimately, I think that's what it all comes down to. We're all here because of Amtgard. A lot of us are here for battle games or for ANS. And if you're not showing up and you're not participating, you're not contributing to culture, don't really value your opinions about how things should be run.
Follow-up question. When you were going to run for sheriff, did you realize that conflict resolution might be part of the job?
I may not be experienced in this kind of conflict resolution. I don't know all of the things that happened. I've never met these people before. These people haven't showed up to the park in 3 years at least, if not longer. And, I don't know what they're like. I don't know, would reasoning with them work? Are they just gonna keep saying the same things? There's events that happened from long before I started playing that still occasionally come up.
Amtgard's been around since 1983, so it's been almost 41 years now.
Yeah.
And there's been people that have been playing almost that long.
Yeah.
And they're, like, in the Pacific Northwest, I think it's 1990s. But still, I don't know exactly how old you are, but you were probably very young when they were playing, and then
I am 24 years old.
Okay.
So,
they might have been playing this game before you were born, and that makes them feel like they could be entitled more than you may be entitled. Mm-hmm. I'm not putting words into their mouths because I don't know who we're talking about, but I've met people like that have been playing along so long where they think that they're entitled to say this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that was definitely a concern that I had, is me as, at the time, I was the youngest person at my park. And I'm like, well, I'm the youngest person at the park, and I am in charge. You all have to listen to what I have to say. I'm like, well, when it comes down to it, are they really going to value what I have to say? Because they've been playing this game for longer than me. They're older than me. I'm just this young kid who's eager to run battle games. So over the last year, definitely gotten a lot more assertive about things. This is what's going to happen. You got to deal with it. You voted me in. You got to respect my decisions. There's a couple times I've had to put my foot down like that.
Generally speaking, do you think that they did value your input and your authority in the situations that you had to put your foot down?
I don't know. I think they've been like, all right, whatever. They're in charge. If I don't want to get kicked out, I gotta be a bit more respectful.
I guess you're out of office now, right?
Yeah, I am free from obligations.
Have people still look to you?
It's been 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been literally
one week. That's right. You just said March. It was 20.
Yeah. Last week was our coronation where I stepped down. I don't know. I've been like, I haven't really been in that position yet.
So perhaps in a future interview,
we
will be able to cover that.
Let's see. It's Thursday right now. It was last Sunday is when I stepped down. So it's been, in that time, I haven't really had much Amtgard time. So I'm still solidly of the opinion, defer to whoever's in charge. Even if I disagree with whatever they're saying, it's like, Yeah, I mean, they're in charge. We voted them in. They're willing to put in the work to volunteer for positions like this in order to make sure that the game runs. We've got to respect that.
So outside of Amtgard, is there anything that in Amtgard has affected you, the community, that has changed your life outside of the game?
I mean, before Amtgard, I played Dungeons and Dragons. I would play cards with my grandparents. And other than that, wouldn't really leave the house. I was taking college classes, and those were like online and stuff. But I was like, well, I'll stay at home, play video games in my basement. Once a week, go play Dungeons and Dragons. Once a week, go play cards with my grandparents. That's it. So like now, I play Amtgard on Saturdays, Sundays. I go to fighting practice Tuesdays and Thursdays sometimes, and outside a lot more. Definitely healthier. I'm exercising a lot more. I'm talking with a lot more people. Before, I had not a lot of friends, and now I could. There's like 200 people here that I could walk up to and just start talking to, and I'm sure I could find at least 100 people that know me by name, and that's just like 3 years ago could not imagine.
So you mentioned that you've been more assertive over this last year in the game. Have you noticed any of that translating to outside of the game?
I don't think I've been in any situations outside the game that's really come up a lot. Something that actually, another thing that has come up outside the game is that now in like my group of friends that I have outside of Amtgard, I'm like the person that is proactive and sets up times for us to meet up and was like, hey guys, we should watch a movie together. Let's do it on, people free on this day, let's do it then. Or like, hey guys, let's meet up, play board games, let's do it then. And I'm now the person that organizes those. It's like, so I'm out of office now, I don't have to organize, I don't have to organize any kind of fighting practices, I don't have to organize battle games or anything. It's like, now I organize board game meetups for my friends.
It sounds like you might have been a little bit more social, because you got used to being so social in the game, so you want to spend more time with your friends outside of the game. Is that a...
Yeah. Oh, no, I've been trying to recruit them to come play Amtgard as well.
Of course. Everyone should play the game.
Getting me out of the house, getting me exercising, getting me talking with people, getting me in positions where I have to be proactive has been really positive to just my life in general. I have something that I'm always looking forward to for the next weekend.
I think we've already covered this a little bit, but is there a moment in Amtgard that has really strengthened your bond with the community?
One of the really early moments that strengthened my bond was one of the first events I went to, the Corn Maze event by Mason Stone. And that was like my 5th park day ever. 4th or 5th park day ever was that Corn Maze event. And just being able to meet people that had driven, it's like, oh yeah, I drove from Oregon for this. Well, that's cool. Now I know your name and I know your face. And like I don't see this person very often. I see them, every 3 to 6 months at at our NLCC and other events like the Corn Maze and like Mid-Rain and things like that. Well, I see them every once in a while, and just being able to make these connections with people from 500 miles away that never would have met this person before.
Yeah.
And just having these kinds of events that bring people from super far distances together to hang out, it made me realize how much I needed something like this and how much I wanted to continue doing it. And I wanted to contribute to making sure that things like this keep happening.
It sounds like you've made a lot of really good effort to do that over the
last
2.5 years. Yeah.
And I'm, I had a good time doing it. But I'm glad it's over for now.
Oh yeah. I suggest taking a break.
Yeah. No, I'm taking at least a 3-month break, and maybe I'll get into like Park GMR to help just put my foot in the door. Like, maybe I want to help run things a little bit more again. But,
yeah. I find GMR is at local level, anyways, is a good way to be there to support the monarchy without having to run anything too much.
Yeah.
You're kind of there to advise and help out.
Yeah, because before I was Park Monarch, I was the Park Champion, and that's the reason that I swapped my credits from Inland Ocean to the Hollow initially, is that the Hollow was like, hey, we don't have a champion right now. I'm like, well, I'm kind of interested in running games. Maybe I'll come try that. And so I swapped credits, and I was like, oh, there's like 8 people here. Yeah, it was just the starting of the winter season, and it was a rough winter.
What challenges do you see the community facing today, and how do you think that they can overcome them?
Something I've been seeing quite a bit is people not being willing to put themselves out there to volunteer to be in elected positions. I've seen Inland Ocean recently was having trouble just getting anyone to declare for anything. It's like no one wanted to be the monarch of the park. And I know Killian, he didn't really want to be the monarch of the park. He was like, well, someone's got to do it. And then throughout the reign, I would see people complaining about the way that he's running things. I'm like, guys, no one else wanted to do it. Let's just be happy that he's doing it at all. And now, even at the Hollow where we have so many people, most of the positions end up being run unopposed. So people don't really have a choice for things, and it seems like, well, if there's no choice, we got to vote for this person then. And now, I'm not saying that I don't like anyone that was elected, but I think it would be a lot healthier if we had options. If we had multiple people willing to step up and do things, and not just have the same people running for things. Because I think that's one of the problems that Inland Ocean is having, is that it's always there's like a set of 5 to 8 people that are like, yeah, I'll help out at the park, I'll run for office, and then half of them are in Kingdom Monarchy, and so they can't run, and then another half they're all they're at their term limits for things and they can't do things anymore. So this is something that I have been thinking about for the past year, and I've been trying to encourage people to probably like, hey, you should consider doing this position. You see, I put in a lot of work. You don't have to put in as much work as me. Like, I'm kind of, I got a little crazy near the end, especially on my second reign. I was like, yeah, I got one reign down. We've grown quite a bit. I'm more confident now. My original plan was, run like 1 special event per month, and then the second reign, I'm like, man, we could do 2 events per month. How much harder could it be? And then I was like, that was way too much. But yeah, trying to convince people that being in office, it is work. You're definitely volunteering your time and effort and a little bit of your enjoyment in order to make other people's experience better. But it's something that we need in order for the game to survive. Someone has to be willing to be able to put their enjoyment aside to be able to run things. If things go wrong, someone's got to take the blame. People need to be willing to put themselves out there. It's not as hard as I thought it was initially. And that's kind of what I realized by the end of my first reign, after running the park as a solidly a shire and then solidly a barony. I'm like, well, I thought that barony would be hard, but actually running it isn't too hard. So I can put in the extra effort now. I can run more things. I can run more extravagant things. Ideas that I thought would be impossible, let's go ahead and just try them. What's the worst that'll happen? We run 1 bad event. Like, I had an idea for a Smith tournament where people would submit battle games and we'd play them. I'm like, man, there's all these problems that could happen, but I think it would be a cool idea if we did this. And had all these judges and stuff, and then schedule it, and the date comes up, and I'm like, man, the park has really changed since then. We're going to have to change some things about it. And it ends up being, it's not the greatest event that's ever been run, but people still had a good time. We got some stories out of it, things that people aren't going to forget. Mostly positive things. No one got hurt, no one got upset, but not every event has to be perfect. Not everything has to be perfect. And I think that's an important thing for people to know when they go into office. Not everything has to be perfect, but you do have to be able to put up with people complaining about things not being perfect.
Yeah.
But if people are complaining about them not being perfect, you can, a lot of the time, ignore them. Not entirely ignore them. They oftentimes have good points, but we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
We're not being paid to do this. And especially if it's your first time, they shouldn't be too hard on you. I think people will be there to back you up and give you assistance if you need it.
Are there any traditions in the community that you would like to see continue, or any new ones that you'd like to see develop in the future?
Well, when I first started, it was all about either battle games, ditching, just fighting in general. And there was that little page in the rulebook that I had read first when I had first started coming out, which was the role-playing section. It's like, after playing this game for like 6 months, I haven't seen any role-playing. And now, thanks to a couple people from my park that are now some of the crats for NLCC, the RP crats and stuff like that, they've been very enthusiastic about bringing that role-playing back into the game. That making sure that page of the rulebook isn't just an appendix, that it isn't being used. Role-playing exists, and I'm very I've had such a great time today with the way that things have been run. I've really enjoyed seeing the way that they've been bringing role-playing back into the game over the last 6 months or so. The things that they've been doing, and I'm sure that there are people out at other parks also making efforts, but I'm at the Hollow, so I see what they're doing. I've been very happy with the work that they've been putting in and the ideas that they've been bringing. Some of them are very new to the game, and so haven't gone through 2 years of absolutely no role playing that I did. And they're like, they had shown up to the park less than a year ago, and Zed was there talking about these are some role-playing things that used to happen, these are some things I want to bring back, and just having that enthusiasm to push to bring these back into the game.
Well, I hope that does continue. I know that it goes, in my experience, in and out of the role-play, goes back to fighting to role-play. I've been in this game maybe too long. I've seen lots of trends. I'd like to thank Kulos Rubus for coming on LARP Chats, and we'll catch you next time.